friends, welcome back. Today we'll be starting with international bodies. So I hope all of you have completed science and technology. Science and technology was the first section that we wanted to do. All of you are done with science and technology, have also attempted the 2 tests on science and technology. One was held this Sunday, one the previous Sunday. Okay, from this week, we'll provide around 4 or 5 booklets on international issues, so around 100 pages in total, 120 pages in total. With that, we will cover international body thoroughly, and after that, we'll have tests on international bodies. When we cover international bodies, please note that for preliminary examination, we are not going to focus a lot on bilateral relations, India, USA, India, China, India, Pakistan. Those things are not relevant for preliminary examination. So here, when we are dealing with international relations or international bodies, most of the things would be focused on United Nations, various special organizations, their reports, then regional groupings, BRICS, SARC, BIMSTEC, SCO, and all other such organizations. Then we'll also talk about some other reports, some other NGOs whose reports UPSC have tended to ask in the examination in the past. Then we'll also be dealing with some weapon control regimes, they say NPT, NSG. NSG is not actually a weapon control regime, but yes, it controls the flow of nuclear material. So those kind of institutions that we'll be dealing with, because these are certain things which are asked in preliminary examination. Okay, because it's a target prelims program, the focus is on covering prelims sections. Okay, so today we are starting with United Nations, and the first 1 hour of this lecture will be on United Nations principal bodies. Then we'll move on to other UN bodies. Tomorrow also we'll continue doing UN bodies, because you would see that there are lots of UN bodies which have been in news, lots of reports, lots of programs which are there in news, and we should all be ready. We should all be very well prepared for that. Okay, so let us start with United Nations. So when we hear the term United Nations, what comes in our mind? Like, what is the first thing that comes in our mind? It's like we think of an international organization which is working on all the fronts, be it economic front, be it social front, be it security front. In case there's a war somewhere, you'll see, or in case there's a conflict somewhere, you'll see that UNSC is having a meeting on that particular issue. In case there are health issues, you'll see United Nations General Assembly is talking about it, WHO is talking about it. So United Nations is an international organization which is promoting this cooperative efforts on all the fronts. But how did this organization, this UN, came into play? How did it start? The origin goes back to the First World War. After First World War, you must be knowing that a Paris Peace Agreement was signed, जिसके अंदर League of Nations was established. The purpose of League of Nations was that this kind of devastating event should not happen again. Something like World War I should not happen again. But within 2 decades, we saw the World War II happening, clearly showing that League of Nations had failed. So while the World War II was going on, 1939 to 1945 is the period of World War II. While the World War II was going on, in 1941, the members of, there were 2 sides in the World War. There was one Allied group, there was another, the Axis power wala group. So the members of Allied group, they met together on 14th of August 1941 to sign what is known as Atlantic Charter. This Atlantic Charter was basically saying that what would be the steps after we have won this war. After this war is over, what steps do we need to take to ensure that this kind of thing not happen again, to ensure that democracy is prevalent. Those kind of things were there. So Atlantic Charter was for that purpose. UK, US, leaders of UK, US had drafted the work, and all the allies of World War II later signed it. Now, the signers or adherents to this Atlantic Charter later signed the declaration by United Nations between 1942 to 1945, and United Nations came into picture in 1945. This section is not very important. Like in preliminary examination, they haven't asked questions from this aspect. This is mostly covered in world history, not relevant as such, but you should briefly know, like sometimes a question on Atlantic Charter may be asked. You should be able to answer that. Sometimes something like, when was the term United Nations used for the first time? League of Nations was something that was there in 1920, but when was the term United Nations used for the first time? So it was the US president during World War II who used the term United Nations for the Allied powers. Okay, so he used the term United Nations here. Atlantic Charter was signed talking about or discussing about what should be the steps in future. Later, all the adherents to Atlantic Charter, they signed declaration by United Nations, and thus UN was formed. Now, UN consists of 6 principal organs or 6 principal bodies. The most important of them, or the one in which all the UN members have representation, is United Nations General Assembly. United Nations General Assembly is the chief deliberative body. Chief deliberative body, like this is the body where most of the discussions, negotiations in United Nations take place. And in order to understand what is the function of United Nations General Assembly, compare it with Parliament, the law-making body, the code-making body, the convention-making body, the deliberative body. What happens in Parliament? Discussions happen. So United Nations General Assembly is akin to that. Okay, so if you look at it, is the main deliberative body. If you look at its function, it is in its function, the key part is it is a forum for multilateral negotiations. So representatives from all the countries would be there in United Nations General Assembly, and here negotiations would happen. Now, it is the only UN organ in which all members have equal representation. We'll see that there are a lot of other UN organs, like UNSC is there. There only 15 members. 15 members are part of UNSC at one time. WHO is there, ILO is there, but not all the members of United Nations may be part of WHO, may be part of International Labour Organization, may be part of other such organization. But this is one organ in which all members have equal representation and all UN members are there. Now, other than being the key chief deliberative body, what does United Nations General Assembly do? What are its functions and powers? So now, again, compare or think of the Parliament kind of body. Our Parliament approves our budget. In the same way, it approves the budget of United Nations. It also would be, you would see, making conventions. Just give me 1 second. It also would be passing resolutions, making conventions, those kind of things would be done by it. But other than that, it's not very technically only a law-making kind of body. You would see it has other functions also. For example, it elects the non-permanent member of Security Council. Recently, India, from January this year, India is a non-permanent member of UNSC. India was elected by United Nations General Assembly way back in June 2020. For 2 years, that is 2021, 2022, you will be a member of UNSC. So, again, for preliminary examination, you should know, if you are asked a question, कि UNSC में non-permanent members को कौन appoint करता है, then it is the United Nations General Assembly which appoints the member UNSC में the non-permanent members. Then it also appoints members of other it also elects members of other United Nations councils and organs, including Secretary General. Who is Secretary General? Secretary General is the key spokesperson of United Nations. He heads the one of the principal organization of UN. Which principal organization? The Secretariat. अभी हम पहला ही principal organization of UN पढ़ रहे हैं, UNGA. We'll study the sixth organization, which will be Secretariat. It is headed by Secretary General. United Nations Secretary General के बारे में सुना होगा आपने? It is headed by Secretary General, and this Secretary General is also appointed by United Nations General Assembly, but on the recommendation of Security Council. So here first Security Council will give recommendation that this person should be appointed, and then United Nations General Assembly is appointing him. Then in other functions, you would see it makes recommendation on general principles of cooperation for maintaining internal peace and security in general. Because it's a key deliberative body, it will give recommendation, these things should be done, this thing should be done. You would see that United Nations General Assembly may also give suggestion on how Myanmar conflict should be reduced. Those kind of things should happen. Then it discuss any question related to international peace and security. If anywhere in the world some concern related to peace and security is happening, it would discuss it, except if those things are being discussed in United Nations Security Council. We'll come to the second body of United Nations. There we'll study United Nations Security Council. So if a matter of international peace and security is not being discussed in United Nations Security Council, then it could be discussed here. So any question related to international peace and security, except where a dispute or situation is currently being discussed in the Security Council, UNGA can discuss it, and then it can make recommendations on it. Further, it can, in general, say Parliament can initiate studies in the same way United Nations General Assembly can initiate studies and make recommendations on various aspects. Now, the primary responsibility of ensuring peace is with United Nations Security Council. But as we'll come to United Nations Security Council, we would see that their decisions are taken by by voting among the 15 members. But if any of the P5 member of United Nations Security Council, the permanent members of United Nations Security Council, say no to something, let's say there's a war going on between China and Taiwan. Suppose this is the situation. UNSC wants to take a decision, let's stop this war, let's send our forces there to prevent this kind of situation from happening. But even if one permanent member of UNSC says that no, you will not do it, gives veto, then UNSC would become useless. UNSC would not be able to take a decision there. This was the case mostly during the Cold War, when USA was on one side, Russia was on another side. So in case of any conflict, they were playing a role. So UNSC was as such not able to play any role in that situation. In that situation, it also has right. It can take actions in cases of threat to peace, breach of peace, or act of aggression when the Security Council has failed to act owing to the negative vote of a permanent member. So primary responsibility of maintaining international peace is with UNSC. But when UNSC has failed because of veto by a member, then the role goes to UNGA. Now here also, we'll see when we come to UNSC, we would see that UNSC is the only UN body which can take binding decisions. That is, if UNSC would say something, it has to be respected by all the member countries. Here, United Nations General Assembly will only give recommendation. यहाँ पे जब international peace and security के लिए कोई action लेना है, तो UNGA will recommend its member to take collective action. Members can still say, we don't want to take an action here. Even after a resolution is passed, members can say that. Okay, so more or less you have understood what are the different functions of United Nations General Assembly. Structure में all the members of United Nations are part of United Nations General Assembly. All of them have one vote. Each of them has one vote. Functions in general, parliament kind of functions are there. Some executive functions are also there. Okay, this is United Nations General Assembly. Now in UNGA, the meeting of United Nations General Assembly, जैसे parliamentary sessions होते हैं, वैसे the meeting of United Nations General Assembly takes place between September to December, and hereafter also the meetings may take place whenever required. Now, in order to reach a decision, in order to pass a resolution, the decisions are taken by voting. In day-to-day affairs, the decision can be taken by simple majority. But things which are crucial, for example, something like passing of the budget, those things are crucial. There, the decision would be taken by a 2/3 majority. Okay, so there are two different kinds of majority which is required in United Nations General Assembly. One is the simple majority, other is the 2/3 majority, where 129 out of 193, 129 members should say yes for something. But in recent years, what United Nations General Assembly has tried to go for is, it has tried to search for consensus. Let's convince everyone to get something passed rather than just searching for majority. That is, they have been trying to do, but even in recent cases, you would see that United Nations General Assembly there have been cases of voting, and in those cases, in crucial circumstances, for example, when it comes to recommendation on peace and security, it's an important decision. There, 2/3 majority would be required. Similarly, election of Security Council. India, Security Council में elect हुआ. India needed 2/3 majority. India needed support of 2/3 members. You would see Economic and Social Council के members को जब elect कर रहे हैं, या फिर budgetary questions हैं, in all these cases 2/3 majority is required. So different types of majorities which are there in United Nations General Assembly, that should also be known to you. Now, there are some states which are not members of United Nations General Assembly, which have not officially joined United Nations General Assembly. For example, Holy See. Holy See is that state or that body which is looking after Vatican, and Vatican City is a country, right? तो वहां पे जो governance देख रही है, that body is Holy See. It is not part of United Nations General Assembly. It is an observer. Similarly, State of Palestine. State of Palestine is not a member of United Nations General Assembly. It is what? It is a observer. So these observers are allowed to take part in United Nations General Assembly meetings, but as observers, they would not be able to vote. They'll not be able to vote on any issue. Other than these, there are international organizations also which take part in United Nations General Assembly meetings, but as observers, they include African Union, European Union, Caribbean Community, International Criminal Police Organization, or Interpol, League of Arab, and so on. Okay, so there are some member countries, but a few of them here are observers. Some of the international organizations are also observers. Now, a major criticism of United Nations General Assembly is that, what's going on? A major criticism of United Nations General Assembly is that every member country has one vote. A country as big as China has one vote. A country which is very, very small and maybe having 1 lakh population also has one vote. So any decision could be passed in United Nations General Assembly if 8% of the people can pass a resolution. That is, 8% of countries which represent only 8% of the world's population agree to it, because they'll be able to get 50% of the votes. Because even smaller population, countries with small population have one vote. Countries with very large population also has one vote. So by this, so this is one criticism which is laid against United Nations General Assembly. Now, there are some other facts that you should know for preliminary examination. One is the election of president and vice president. Every year before the session begins, we were saying this, when does the session happens? In September to December. So every year before the session begins, at least 3 months before the session begins, United Nations General Assembly appoints a president and vice president who will head UNGA for that particular year. So last year, in June 2020, this guy Volkan Bozkir was appointed as the president of 75th session. But this year, I'm specifically covering it because recently it has been in news that India has been pushing a lot that for the 76th session, the presidency should go to Abdullah Shahid, who is the foreign minister of Maldives. So India-Maldives relations have improved over the last 2 years. India here also in United Nations General Assembly has also been supporting Maldives foreign minister to become the head of or the president of United Nations General Assembly. So because a lot of articles on India-Maldives relations have been in there, and there this particular issue has been mentioned again and again. In preliminary examination, they may ask a question on how is President of United Nations General Assembly elected, for what duration President of United Nations General Assembly elected. You should be able to answer that too. Please note, Secretary General is not the President of United Nations General Assembly. President of United Nations General Assembly is akin to Speaker, whereas Secretary General is head of Secretariat. Fine. So more or less, do you understand United Nations General Assembly? Broad ideas about it? Before we go to United Nations Security Council, let us solve 1 or 2 objective questions related to United Nations General Assembly, which is there in your booklet. Towards the end of your booklet, you also have some objective questions given. Let's go there and let's solve some questions. Question number 1. Consider the following statements about functions of United Nations General Assembly. We'll start with the last person. What's your name? Bataiye. Oh, you're giving the answer. Let's go statement wise. It approves the budget of United Nations. Correct. It appoints the Secretary General on the recommendation of United Nations Security Council. Sure. It discusses any question related to international peace and security, especially the one currently being discussed in UNSC. The one which is being discussed in UNSC, it cannot discuss that. Except the one being discussed in UNSC, it would be able to discuss and make recommendations on it. Right? Clear? So third statement is wrong. What should be the answer? A. Answer should be A, 1 and 2 only. Clear hai sabko? Okay. Let's go to question number 2. See, for mains examination, we have to study the relevance of United Nations today, the evolution of functioning of United Nations. For preliminary examination, you have to go through these factual things. There's a difference, right? So, abhi do not get into that mains mode. Focus on who is publishing the budget, who's doing what, those kind of things, who publishes this report. Those kind of questions are relevant for preliminary examination. We would be focusing on those. Come to question number 2. Who'll answer it? Suraj. Which of the following is not a member of United Nations General Assembly? तो अभी पढ़ा State of Palestine, तो we know State of Palestine is not a member. In general, all other countries are members there. Okay, consider the following statements with reference to UNSC's non-permanent membership. Achha, here we are coming to UNSC. Let us first study UNSC before we solve questions related to UNSC. United Nations Security Council. United Nations Security Council. As I was telling you, the responsibility of maintaining world peace is with UNSC. See, the purpose, what was the purpose of League of Nations? The main purpose was the devastation that has happened should not happen again. It failed. United Nations was formed. One of the key purpose of United Nations was to ensure this kind of thing should not happen again. Reduce the conflict, reduce the tension. This was the purpose. UNSC was primarily responsible for that work. So, it is primarily responsible for maintenance of internal peace and security. Now, How would I maintain internal peace and security? In case there is some tension, it would investigate any dispute which may lead to international friction. It will regulate armament. We would see mechanisms by which UNSCs regulating armament. It will, using peacekeeping operations, try to ensure peace between various countries or within a country if there's a lot of conflict there. It used sanction mechanisms. Today we will also study sanction mechanism. Under sanction mechanism, what is done is, if UNSC puts an organization under some sanction, it means that उन sanctions के अंदर, for example, they are not supposed to have bank accounts, or they are not supposed to उस organization से related लोग are not supposed to travel abroad. Those kind of sanctions would be imposed by the member countries, because again, UNSC is the only body which has the power to take binding decision. So if UNSC includes a terrorist organization of or an individual of Pakistan into under any of the sanctions, it would make Pakistan bound to take action, impose those sanctions against that individual or that organization. So we would study about sanctions in more detail, but international sanctions are something that is another mechanism by which it ensures, it takes steps to ensure peace, and then it may also authorize military action. In the end, it may authorize military action to ensure peace. These are the different ways in which UNSC can do that. Now, primary purpose is this, but other than this, you would also see that other crucial functions of UNSC include recommending admission of new member to UN. United Nations has 193 members right now. If new members have to be included, UNSC's recommendation would be required. Recommend General Assembly about the appointment of Secretary General. We are again repeating it here. While studying United Nations General Assembly, we said that United Nations General Assembly appoints Secretary General on the recommendation of UNSC. Here we are saying that on the recommendations of UNSC, UNGA appoints Secretary General. Same thing, right? Then together with Assembly, elect the judges of ICJ. We would see that International Court of Justice के judges कैसे appoint होते हैं? They are appointed by approval both from UNSC and United Nations General Assembly. That is, if a judge has to be appointed in International Court of Justice, we'll come to International Court of Justice also. It is another principal organization of United Nations system. If a judge has to be appointed there, the judge has to get support from United Nations General Assembly also, and the judge has to get support from UNSC also. What if the judge is able to get support from one and not from other? Not appointed, but then voting in both the bodies happen again, then again. So something like this happened in 2017. There was a judge from India and there was a judge from UK, United Kingdom, Britain. India was getting support in United Nations, Indian judge was getting support in United Nations General Assembly, and the Britain's judge was getting support in United Nations Security Council. Now who gets appointed? So second round of voting took place, third round of voting took place, fourth round of voting took place. It went on like that. Eventually UK ने withdraw कर लिया. We were also adamant, and it was the first time that one of the P5 members, UK's P5 member, permanent member of United Nations Security Council, one of the P5 member did not have a judge in International Court of Justice. But that example tells you how the judges are appointed. Remember this. When we'll come to International Court of Justice, we'll again revise it, but you should clearly know how judges of International Court of Justice are appointed or elected. Now come to the issue of membership. So United Nations Security Council have 15 members. Of these 15 members, 5 are permanent, whom we also called P5 members. 10 are non-permanent members. India was recently appointed elected as a non-permanent member in United Nations Security Council. And the decisions which are taken by United Nations Security Councils are taken by these 15 members. For any decision to be approved, you should have a 9:15 support. The 9 out of 15 members should agree to that decision, including no veto from any of the P5 members. If any one of the P5 members says no, and even if all other 14 members are saying yes, that decision would not be passed. So the P5 members have what is known as veto power here in the UNSC decision making. And who are the P5 members? United States, United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. These are also the countries which were on the winning side in the World War II, on the winning side of the World War II. Okay, these are P5 because these were the 5 most important countries of that time. They were given the permanent seats at UNSC and the veto powers. It was expected that they will behave responsibly. That has not been the case. Other 10 members are appointed for 2-year period. So every year 5 members are appointed. Every year 5 members. Those 5 members will have a 2-year term. Next year again 5 members who will have 2 years term. Okay. Now the non-permanent members. 5 permanent members are fixed. Non-permanent members. Can all the 10 non-permanent members come from Europe? No. Those non-permanent members have been distributed geographically. At any time, we would have 3 non-permanent members from African group. We'll have 2 non-permanent members from Asia Pacific group. We would have 1 non-permanent member from East European group, 2 from Latin America and Caribbean, and 2 from Western Europe and other groups. Here, the first number I have mentioned is the number of countries in these regions. So, number of countries, members. Number of countries, how many non-permanent members would be from there? So, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, here you would see something weird, like West European countries. From West Europe, we already have United Kingdom and France, which are represented there. फिर 2 और members वहां से आ सकते हैं. From the whole of Africa, we do not have any permanent member, but from there also you can only see 3 members. Similarly, Eastern Europe. अगर आप यूरोप को पूरा देखेंगे, यूरोप, Western Europe combined, you will see 3 non-permanent members could be from there, which is unfair. Whereas from Asia Pacific, we only have 2 non-permanent member seat available. We'll come to that this bias, this discrimination separately, but non-permanent members also have been geographically distributed. So if a seat gets emptied, like when India's 2-year term would be over, a non-permanent member from Asia Pacific would be replacing India, not anyone else. Okay, now let's come to how non-permanent members are elected. So first, non-permanent members are chosen by the regional groups. For example, India was chosen unanimously in the Asia Pacific by the Asia Pacific group. After this regional group chooses the non-permanent member, we would have voting in United Nations General Assembly, whereby 2/3 majority, that is minimum 129 members out of 193 should support membership of this particular. Okay, so this is how India was appointed this time. This was the 8th occasion on which India was appointed as a non-permanent member. Earlier in 1950-51 for 2-year period, 67-68, 72-73, 77-78, 84-85, 91-92 and 2011-2012. In these periods, India have been appointed. Then now in 2021-22, India has been appointed again. Unlike United Nations General Assembly where a session takes place between September to December. In case of UNSC, the members are always present, the representatives are always present at the headquarters to meet whenever required, because there may be situation, they have a crucial role. कोई भी situation of conflict, कोई भी situation of war, they may need to take a decision. Here, unlike United Nations General Assembly, presidency is given only for a month and it rotates in an alphabetical manner among the member countries. So it's not something very crucial. Whereas in United Nations General Assembly, presidency was for 1 year, and that's why people were voting for it, people were contesting for it. Okay, now UNSC is a very crucial body. It can take military action, it can impose sanctions, it can take binding decision. It is responsible for ensuring peace and security. But the decision is concentrated among a very few countries. Okay, give me 1 minute. I'll take a break. Let us start the reform wala thing. So we were saying that United Nations Security Council plays a very crucial role, but it's not able to play that role effectively because of many reasons. Those reasons we need to study in more detail for mains examination, but even for preliminary examination, we should have brief idea about it. So what are the key problems, key limitations, key concerns associated with the UNSC is something that we want to cover here. First is, this body is undemocratic. Undemocratic, why? 15 countries can take crucial decisions for the whole world, or 5 veto power countries can block those decisions. Any one of those countries can block those decisions. In that way, it is undemocratic. Second, it is anachronistic. What is meant by anachronistic? Chronology. See, this crony thing is associated with time. So anachronistic means it is not representing today's time. In 1940s, those 5 countries could have been the most important countries on the globe, but that's not the case today. Today, the role which France can play in ensuring international peace and security, India can perhaps play a much bigger role. Size of India's economy is much bigger. Right? So this institution is anachronistic. Then inequitable economic and geographical representation is there. Inequitable economic and geographical representation, as I was saying, that more bigger economies like Brazil, India have not been given representation. Smaller economies have been given representation there. Similarly, geographical representation, I was already talking about geographical representation, that from Europe we have 2 permanent members, then there is an option of 5 non-permanent members also. This is not the case for, let's say, Africa or any other region. Then weapon exporting countries are at the helm. If you look at the largest weapon exporters of the world, you would see USA, Russia, China are among the largest weapon exporters. हम फ्रांस से रफाल खरीद रहे हैं. So for them, conflict situation is better because more of their weapons would be bought rather than ensuring peace. So there's a conflict of interest there in their responsibility of maintaining peace and export of weapons, they being exporters of weapons. Finally, P5 countries themselves are involved in lots of conflict. USA kitni jagah conflict mein involved hai, Russia, China. So their capability and credibility of ensuring peace would be a concern. So these things we would study in more detail for mains examination. Here you should just have a brief idea about why there's a demand for reforms in United Nations Security Council. Now, what kind of reforms are being demanded? Like, because in United Nations General Assembly, there are various different kinds of countries with different interests. Demands are also of different types. Some countries want that this categories of membership, permanent, non-permanent, those kind of things should be done away with. Some countries are saying that permanent members should remain there, non-permanent members should increase in numbers. Those kind of demands are there. There are demands related to veto power. Should anyone have veto power at all? Or should non-permanent members also have veto powers? There are demands related to regional representation. We have already talked about regional representation. Here, African group says that give us 2 permanent seats. Because most of the work of United Nations is confined here, and we have faced historical injustices. So we should be given more say in what happens to us. Then size of enlarged council, like if UNSC is expanded, what should be the size? Security Council, General Assembly relationship related issues are also there, which are being discussed. Because right now in many cases there's a conflict in UNGA's function and UNSC's function. Their responsibilities, they come in conflict with each other. How to reform that? These are some areas where reforms are being discussed, being thought about. There are various groupings, international groupings, which are calling for reforms but in different ways. For example, there's a G4 grouping, which includes Germany, Japan, Brazil, and India. These 4 countries are lobbying for or are calling for all these 4 countries being made permanent members, because economically they may be as good as the permanent members or better than them. Their contribution, budgetary contribution, as well as human resource contribution in UN peacekeeping force has been more effective. They have a record of being peaceful countries. For all these reasons, these countries, Germany, Japan, Brazil, and India, are demanding, G4 grouping is demanding that hame permanent membership do. So what will UPSC ask? UPSC would ask you questions like, which of the following is not a G4 country? So you should know which are G4 countries. For example, a few years back, I think 2-3 years back, Coffee Club pe question aaya tha. The second grouping here that we want to discuss is Coffee Club. Coffee Club or Uniting for Consensus grouping. What is this grouping? This grouping is opposing G4's permanent membership. It is rather saying that non-permanent membership should be expanded and more regional representation should be there. This Coffee Club is especially significant because it's opposing G4, as you would see that the membership here, Italy, Spain, they would not want Germany to get P5 permanent membership there. Argentina, it is an important player of South America. It would not want Brazil to get permanent membership. Canada, Mexico, South Korea, आप जाएंगे Japan में तो South Korea would be opposing Japan there. From East Asia, it would not want it to get permanent member. And Pakistan, I do not need to talk about. So these are some countries of Coffee Club or Uniting for Consensus who want different kind of reforms. But are you able to understand? Reforms are being demanded. Everyone understands that UNSC has problems, but the types of reforms being demanded are different. There's another group, Africa group. It says that give us 2 permanent seats. We have faced historical injustices and most of the work of United Nations has been in Africa. We should have more say. Reforms are difficult not only because there are different kinds of demand. What type of reform should take place? Reforms are also difficult because for reform to take place, the support that is required is very high. For example, if you want to change membership of United Nations Security Council, size of United Nations Security Council, for anything like that, you should have support of 2/3 of UN members and all of the P5 members. That is permanent members who have veto rights. Now, suppose tomorrow we are able to convince everyone in United Nations General Assembly that India should get permanent membership in United Nations Security Council. But one of P5 members say, no. Because right now P5 members, and it's not only China, anyone who has power doesn't want to share power. P5 countries have that power. They would not want to share the power. So, other than the fact that big majorities require, like why UNSC reforms have become difficult? Because there are different types of demands. So, it would be difficult to get support for like India ko bana do permanent member because other countries are demanding something else. Different kinds of demands are there. Voting requirements, support requirements are very high, and then P5 members are there who would perhaps not support sharing of power. Now, why does India demand that हमें एक permanent role मिलना चाहिए? India says that look at us from economic perspective, look at us from in population wise, like population wise, we are the second largest population in the world. We are one of the peaceful democracies in the world. We have peaceful record more or less. Our contribution to United Nations peacekeeping force has been very high. We are a nuclear weapon country. For all these reasons, we should be given permanent membership in United Nations Security Council. Then, okay, so this was all about United Nations Security Council that I wanted to cover. Okay, now let's go to the next topic related to UNSC, that is UNSC sanctions. नीचे नहीं दिख रहा ना कुछ भी? ठीक है. Let's go to the next topic, UNSC sanctions. I was talking about various ways in which UNSC ensures peace. So usme use of peacekeeping force was one, right? Those kind of things were there. But another thing that was there was UNSC sanctions. So what are these UNSC sanctions? Let us first understand that before we go to news. So there are various ways of maintaining peace. One of the ways is this sanction regime. Under this sanction regime, UNSC has identified 14 different kind of sanctions or 14 different sanction regimes. Now, to understand this sanction regime, understand this. Suppose there is a XYZ terrorist organization and UNSC wants that in pe restriction lage. So there are sanction regimes which are there. For example, there is this the ISIL and Al-Qaeda sanction regime. UNSC by a resolution can put that particular terrorist organization or that particular individual under this regime. Once it is done, then all the sanctions of this regime. So, for example, in ISIL and Al-Qaeda sanction regime, if an organization is put under this, arms ban happen, travel embargo happens, and asset freeze happens. So, if a terrorist, let's say Mayur is a terrorist, and UNSC decides to put Mayur in this particular sanction regime, the day UNSC will put Mayur under this sanction regime, what would happen? India would freeze Mayur's assets, all the bank accounts. Not only India, if he has bank accounts in Switzerland, Switzerland would also seal it. Travel bans would be imposed on this person, and an arms ban would also be imposed on this particular person. So, will this help in ensuring peace? Will this help in ensuring peace? Yes, he was a terrorist. So it would, by freezing his assets, by putting limitation on where he could travel, we are contributing towards ensuring peace. In the same way, there are 14 different sanction regimes which UNSC has. In future, it may come up with other regimes also, other sanction regimes also. And through this, here, they have not taken military action against him. Right? UNSC could have taken military action, but UNSC has not taken military action. Military action becomes the last resort. First, by imposing sanctions, peace could be ensured. This person could be pressurized to ensure peace. Did you understand what sanction regime is now? Now, the 14 sanction regimes which are there right now, all these are covered by a committee or are managed by a committee, and chairperson of these sanction committees is always a non-permanent member of UNSC. जितने ये 14 committees होंगी for these sanction regime, the chairperson of these committees will be a non-permanent member. So recently, when India became a non-permanent member of UNSC, what happened? India was made chairperson of Taliban Sanction Committee and Libyan Sanction Committee. Two of the sanction committees ke chairperson India bana. India is a non-permanent member. It can become a chairperson for the sanction committee. Permanent members do not become chairperson there. India was also made chairperson of another committee called Counter-Terrorism Committee, but it is not a sanction regime. Though sanction regime, sanction committee का chairperson India बना, India also became chairperson of Counter-Terrorism Committee. So UPSC may ask a question, like if it wants to ask a question from current affairs, who is the chairperson or which country is leading the Counter-Terrorism Committee of UNSC presently? Because India has just been made the chairperson, so this kind of question may be asked in the examination. So did you understand this? Did you understand what is sanction regime? You understood that a non-permanent member heads the sanction regime, and if a group, if a country, if an organization is brought under a particular sanction, then those sanctions are like member countries are supposed to impose those sanctions on those countries because UNSC's decisions are binding. So recently you must have heard about Masood Azhar issue. India wanted that Masood Azhar should be listed as a terrorist under which sanction? This ISIL Al-Qaeda sanction regime. India wanted that this should happen. But India was not able to get it done for almost 10 years. 2009 se India try kar raha hai after 26/11 attacks se, but India was not able to get it done till 2019 because the decisions here are taken by consensus. All the member countries should agree for including an individual under a sanction regime. So China had kept on holding. In the 4 attempts that India tried till 2019, China had kept on putting a stay on this. But finally in 2019, enough pressure was put on China diplomatically by India that China also agreed to remove that stay, and thus Masood Azhar was added under this sanction. तो अब मसूद अजहर को इसके अंदर डाल दिया गया, उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा? उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा? There would be travel ban imposed, there would be arms ban imposed, there would be freezing of the asset of Masood Azhar. This thing has been done for other terrorists in the past, for Hafiz Saeed, Zakir Rahman Lakhvi. These people have already been included in this sanction regime. We were not able to get Masood Azhar included in it. Fine, sanction regime is clear. UNSC sanction regime, do you all understand this? Okay, recently India has been made chairperson of two of the sanctions committee. That also you understand? Fine. तो देखो ये सारी चीजें न्यूज में भी हैं, but along with the news you need to know the fundamentals to solve the questions. Like after 2016, UPSC has not asked factual questions वैसे वाले की where only reading of newspaper would be enough. You have to connect it with the fundamental aspect. From 2017, 18, or especially after 2018, 18, 19, 20, if there's a question on current affairs, you would see that there will be multiple statements. One statement would be about current affairs, other statement would be about fundamental of that topic. So, other than knowing in which committees India was made chairperson, in which sanction committees India was made chairperson, you should also know the sanction regime. How does it function? 2019 Masood Azhar issue, you should know that.
Sanction committee के members जो होंगे 15 members.
हाँ, sanction committee because it is of UNSC. So yes. Different in sanction committee, different countries of different countries of the 15 members of UNSC would be there as members.
Less than 15 members.
Yes, less than 15 members. Okay. Now let's go to another principal body, the Trusteeship Council. Trusteeship Council it's a dysfunctional body for now. It was an organ which was created. It was a principal organ of UN which was created to help those territories which did not have proper governance mechanism. Like before 1940s, a lot of territories were ruled by European powers, were controlled by European powers. But as decolonization took place, a lot of territories became free. But in some areas, there could have been situation ki there no stable government mechanism is available. How does governance happen there? To help those kind of territories, trusteeship council was created. So, to promote the advancement of the inhabitants of trust territories and their progressive development towards self-government or independence. This was the purpose of trusteeship council. The P5 members, the most powerful countries, were part of this trusteeship council. But in 1992, Palau was the last trust territory that this council had, which became independent, which was able to form its government. So after that, it doesn't have any territory to look after. So it has, in that way, has become dysfunctional. Trusteeship council in that way has become dysfunctional. Do you understand this? Trusteeship council? Okay. Now let's go to economic and social council. Economic and social council is like an umbrella organization under which various autonomous specialized organs of United Nations are there. For example, International Labour Organization. It's a specialized organ of United Nations which would look after labor laws throughout the world, which would ensure that the way people are working, the employment opportunities, all those things are good throughout the world. It would make recommendations, it would make studies about it. ILO is a specialized organization. But is it contributing towards the economic work of UN? Yes. So the umbrella organization, Economic and Social Council, is the coordinating body on the economic, social and related work, and thus the autonomous specialized organizations of UN, उनके बीच कोऑर्डिनेशन भी इकोनॉमिक एंड सोशल काउंसिल करेगा. तो इंटरनेशनल लेबर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, फूड एंड एग्रीकल्चर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, यूनेस्को, WHO will study about all these specialized autonomous bodies, their functions, their reports, will study about all that. All of them are coordinated by Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. Okay, now let's come to International Court of Justice. So we were saying that United Nations General Assembly is like the parliament, deliberative body. In the UN system, we also have a judicial arm called International Court of Justice. It is like the Supreme Court. Its functions, responsibilities will be similar to what Supreme Court of India does in India. Okay. International Court of Justice. First, let us look at some factual stuff before we get into the nitty-gritties of its function. It's the judicial organ. It was established in June 1945. It is headquartered in The Hague, Netherlands. Of the 6 principal organs of United Nations, ये हम पांचवा पढ़ रहे हैं, छठा would be Secretariat. Only one situated outside New York is this. Remaining 5 are all situated in New York. This is the only one which is situated outside New York in The Hague, Netherlands. Okay, then what does this International Court of Justice do? In case of conflict between 2 members of United Nations who have agreed to the ICJ's jurisdiction, in case of interstate dispute, interstate का मतलब inter-country here, member states मतलब यहाँ पे countries which are member of United Nations, the adjudication on that can be done by International Court of Justice. But suppose if I have a dispute with Pakistan, can I take Pakistan to International Court of Justice? No. It has to be India versus Pakistan. If an NGO has a concern with India, can it take it to International Court of Justice? No. It has to be inter-country dispute, which will go to International Court of Justice. Though a matter like Kulbhushan Jadhav issue went to International Court of Justice, but India did not take the individual case. India said that, see, there is this convention which Pakistan is violating. So we are filing a case against. It became an inter-country dispute. Kulbhushan Jadhav did not take Pakistan to International Court of Justice. India took Pakistan to International Court of Justice for violation of particular convention, particular provisions of particular convention. We'll talk about that too. Maybe in tomorrow's class, when we are dealing with United Nations conventions, we'll talk about that too. Okay, first role that it plays is that of settling the dispute. Second, it can give advisory opinion. For those of you who have studied Supreme Court, you know that under which article Supreme Court has advisory jurisdiction? 143. Under Article 143, Supreme Court of India has advisory jurisdiction. That is, the President of India can ask Supreme Court to consider a matter and give its suggestion to the President. Right? Same is the case with International Court of Justice. UN organs, UN bodies can take a matter to International Court of Justice and ask for advisory jurisdiction. As in case of Supreme Court of India, that decision is not binding, that decision is not mandatory. In case of advisory jurisdiction, that decision is not binding or mandatory. Same is the case with International Court of Justice. That decision is not binding, that decision is not mandatory. So two kinds of cases which can go there. One is the interstate or inter-country cases, and second is the advisory opinion here. Okay, now the structure of International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice has 15 judges. The term of judges are 9 years. So every 3 years, 5 judges would be selected. Total term of one judge would be 9 years. Fine. And all of them sit in any judgment. All 15 of them would sit in any judgment, and judgment would be given by majority. Now, how are judges appointed? तो उसमें मैंने आपको बताया ही था, elections require 2/3 majority at UNGA and 9 out of 15 votes at UNSC. I have already explained this. If you are getting supported one, not supported another, again, जब तक यूनाइटेड किंगडम थक के चला ना जाए. हम तो ढीठ है ही, हम नहीं हटने वाले पीछे. Right? Now, there's also provision of ad hoc judges. What is this provision of ad hoc judges? The provision basically is this. So, suppose India-Pakistan dispute was there. India-Pakistan dispute went to International Court of Justice. But no Pakistani judge is there on the bench. Indian judge is there. Among those 15 judges, Indian judge is there, but Pakistani judge is not there. In that case, Pakistan is allowed to send a judge there as ad hoc judge, as 16th judge. This is the system of ad hoc judge. The International Court of Justice has 15 judges. But in case, if a member country, member party to the dispute does not have representation from a judge of that country, then that member country can send a judge there. Got it? Okay. Now, jurisdiction, as I have already explained, only member states can be participant here, and if they have agreed, we will come under ICJ jurisdiction, not otherwise. Advisory opinion I have also explained. Source of law, what would be the source of law? Like on what, in case of Supreme Court of India, the laws of India, the Constitution of India is something based on which Supreme Court of India gives judgment. What happens in case of International Court of Justice? Here, international treaties and conventions, international custom, general principle of law and judicial decision, teachings of the most highly qualified publicist jurisdiction on advisory proceedings, etc. are used as source of law. Okay, so this was what? 5th principal organ of United Nations. Let's come to the 6th, the Secretariat. Secretariat is like our Secretariat. Implementation का काम कौन कर रहा होता है? Secretariat कर रहा होता है, right? In the same way, we have UN Secretariat. Day-to-day work of the organization is done by this Secretariat. It will be providing services to principal organs. It will administer various programs and policies which are laid down by principal organ. For example, UNSC would say, send peacekeeping force here. So there is a, under the Secretariat, there are various departments there's a department of peacekeeping force which will be implementing that decision. You're understanding what I'm trying to say? So it is the executive part ऐसे which has various departments and so on. So it administers peacekeeping operation, it mediates international disputes, it surveys economic and social trends, it prepares studies of human rights and so on. It's organized along the departmental lines, that is for different sectors there would be department. For example, there is Department of Peace Operations which provides political executive direction to UN peacekeeping operations. The Secretariat is headed by Secretary General, and this Secretary General is generally the de facto spokesperson of the United Nation. तो जब यूनाइटेड नेशन की तरफ से कोई बोल रहा होता है, जनरली द यूनाइटेड नेशन सेक्रेटरी जनरल बोल रहा होता है, बट यूनाइटेड नेशन सेक्रेटरी जनरल इज नॉट द हेड ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली. प्रेसिडेंट इज देयर. यूनाइटेड नेशन सेक्रेटरी जनरल इज द हेड ऑफ सेक्रेटेरिएट. And how is United Nations Secretary General elected? By United Nations General Assembly on recommendations of UNSC. So basically UNSC. Right? ये चीज clear है? Okay. Now we'll cover two more bodies before we jump on to questions, because these two bodies, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development and UNDISA, these function under Secretariat. There are many such bodies which function under Secretariat, but these two were there in news, so I'm covering these two before I go to specialized organization. We'll come to ILO, FAO, all those things are also there, but पहले ये दो bodies कर लेते हैं. United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. We are done with 6 principal organs of United Nations. United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. What does the name tell you here? United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. It will be a UN body which will be doing trade. Trade, UN doesn't do trade, right? It promotes trade. It promotes developmental activities. So it will be the UN body which is working towards promotion of trade, promotion of development. Right? This is what UNCTAD should technically do. So it is the permanent intergovernmental body established by the United Nations General Assembly in 1964. It is part of UN Secretariat. And what is its function? It supports developing countries to access the benefits of globalized economy more fairly and effectively. So basically, when it is promoting trade, more and more free trade, in that situation, countries which are less developed, countries which are developing, maybe on a disadvantageous side. So it works towards ensuring that those countries, developing countries, are able to get benefit of this international trade rather than suffer from it. ओके नाउ इतना जानो, इससे ज्यादा जानने की जरूरत नहीं है यूएनसीटीएडी के बारे में. ज्यादा ये जानना है कि विच आर द रिपोर्ट्स विच आर पब्लिश्ड बाय यूएनसीटीएडी, बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस रिलेटेड टू रिपोर्ट्स आर आस्क्ड इन द एग्जामिनेशन. तो इफ यू लुक एट द रिपोर्ट्स, वर्ल्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट रिपोर्ट, इट इज वन ऑफ द फ्लैगशिप रिपोर्ट्स ऑफ यूएनसीटीएडी. याद रखो, अभी से जितनी भी बॉडीज उनके कौन कौन से रिपोर्ट्स हैं, try to cram them. Like I know some students had been complaining, sir ये reports कब कराओगे, ये सारी चीज सब अपने अपने टाइम पे होंगी. There's no point of giving you list of 50 reports. We will cover all the reports वो जिन bodies के अंदर आ रहे हैं उसके अंदर. Otherwise studying 50 reports would be difficult. Here you know UNCTAD, so it would be easy to understand that it is the body which will be publishing World Investment Report. It is the body which will be publishing Trade and Development Report. UNCTAD के नाम में ही Trade and Development है. It is the body which will be talking about Commodities and Development Report. We'll understand why. अभी इन सारे reports के बारे में थोड़ा और डिटेल देखते हैं तो समझेंगे. First, let's come to World Investment Report. Do not get into the details of this report. You think logically, rationally, not religiously. What would be there in this report? This report will study कि कितना investment कहाँ हो रहा है. World Investment Report, which country is getting how much investment. This is what this report should technically do. World Investment Report, the name is telling you this. You do not have to get into the details of it. The World Investment Report is doing exactly this. FDI किस कंट्री में कितना हो रहा है, पैटर्न क्या है, बढ़ रहा है, घट रहा है, is something that World Investment Report does. And the latest report, during COVID-19, would FDI suffer? The latest report is saying exactly the same thing. The 2020 report highlighted that global flow of FDI will be under severe pressure as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. But two countries, India and China, have shown exceptional trends. China has seen a rise of FDI by 4%. Its FDI in 2013 has been $163 billion. India's FDI has been $57 billion. So these are two countries, in spite of COVID-19, have seen investment. In India, a major part of this investment is the investment of Facebook into Jio. Facebook has announced 40-50,000 crore rupees ka investment in Jio, right? So because of that, this FDI level is high here. So World Investment Report, इसमें कुछ याद रखने की जरूरत है? This is the first report we are studying. I'll keep asking you these reports. Keep these on your tips. जनरली एक क्वेश्चन हर 2 साल में एक क्वेश्चन आ जाता है, रिपोर्ट कौन पब्लिश करता है, या हर 1 साल में भी एक क्वेश्चन आ जाता है, रिपोर्ट कौन पब्लिश करता है. तो वर्ल्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट रिपोर्ट इज पब्लिश्ड बाय देम. व्हाट इज देयर इन द रिपोर्ट? You understand the story, like investment, what should be the report? We know what should be the report. Now, trade and development report. So this report has been published since 1981. Generally, the report analyzes economic trends and major policy issues of international concerns associated with trade and development. Okay, then there is commodities development report. Commodities development report 2019 में आया था, उसके बाद आया नहीं है. This report basically studies those countries which are very much commodity dependent. जैसे Venezuela, it is dependent a lot on export of oil. It's a commodity dependent country. So here you will see in-depth analysis of topics of particular interest to commodity dependent countries and present proposals. So 2019 report was talking about commodity dependence, climate change and Paris Agreement. Okay, here how climate change will impact countries which are commodity dependent, those kind of things were there. But again, you do not have to get into its detail. Just this is the अभी तक हमने पहला रिपोर्ट पढ़ा था वर्ल्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट रिपोर्ट. दूसरा रिपोर्ट क्या था? ट्रेड एंड डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट. क्या था? ट्रेड एंड डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट. थर्ड commodities and development report, all by UNCTAD. Then there are some other reports by UNCTAD, least developed countries report, e-commerce development report, review of maritime transport technology and innovation report. याद रख सकते हो तो रखो, नहीं रख सकते हो कोई बात नहीं. You do not have to like cram all these things. Just read it once or twice so that when you will hear the term technology development report, यही है ना, हाँ, technology and innovation report, you should be like सुना तो था कहीं. इन बॉडीज में से कुछ होना चाहिए, गेस करना आसान होना चाहिए. इट्स नॉट feasible that for every body you will learn all the 7-8 reports, but these 3 reports were there in news, so I have covered it. Now, there was another thing about UNCTAD which was in news, that was United Nations Investment Promotion Award. Invest India, which is the investment promotion agency of India, has been given this United Nations Investment Promotion Award in 2020. So, first let us understand what this award is. This award recognizes those bodies all across the world which are working towards promotion of investment. So India mein Invest India is that body which is working towards promotion of investment in India. Ease of doing business बढ़ा के बाकी mechanisms से it is promoting investment in India. So this year this award by UNCTAD has been given to this Indian body. It analyzed the functioning of 180 different bodies all across the world, and Invest India has been given this award. National Investment Promotion Agency of India is the winner of 2020 United Nations Investment Promotion Award. This. And United Nations Investment Promotion Award किसका है? UNCTAD administer करता है. Fine, this is something that happened in December 2020. Now, let's look at another department of Secretariat, UNDSA, United Nation Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Secretariat के अंदर डिपार्टमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं हम यहाँ पे. We had said that Secretariat is organized on departmental lines. One of the principal organs of UN is organized on the departmental lines. So one of the department is United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Now, what is its responsibility? Economic and social affairs से related जो issues होंगे, which UN is dealing with, would be coming here. So you'll see that it is responsible for taking follow-up to major UN summits, services to UN ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, services to second and third committee of United Nations General Assembly. These are certain things that it does. So Secretariat is supposed to serve the remaining principal organs of UN. This department, जो economic and social related role होंगे, would be served by this department. Okay, now what is important are again its report. UNDSA के कौन-कौन से reports हैं? First is this World Population Report. This report was published in 2019, 20 में publish नहीं हुआ है, but I'm also covering this report so that not international body question, but population related questions are asked. In that, you should have a brief idea about what is happening. Suppose a question comes that in next 20 years, in next 30 years, India will be the country which will be contributing most to the population increase in the world. Is it correct or not? Will India contribute the most? You're not sure about it, right? So, because we'll study this report will give us an idea about those things. So, the report, World Population Report, is published by UNDSA. It is saying that the current population, that is 2019 population of the world is 7.8 billion, which will reach 8.5 billion by 2030 and 9.7 billion by 2050. 9 countries will make half of the projected population growth between now and 2015. Between today and 2050, 9 countries will contribute to more than 50% of the all the growth that would happen. जितने लोग add होंगे उसमें से 50% would be added by these 9 countries, where India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Indonesia, Egypt, and USA are there. But highest contribution is estimated to be from India. And you'll see that these countries which are contributing a lot are also poor countries. So they are saying that it will challenge SDG goals. SDG goals क्यों? क्योंकि वहां पे population control, poverty reduction, health, education, इन सब से related goals है. If population is increasing more in countries which are poor, achieving of these global goals will become a challenge. Further, the report also says that by 2027, 27 or 28, 27, we will be surpassing China in terms of overall population. Then the report is also saying that the world is growing older. For the first time in the history of Earth, number of people above 65 outnumber number of people below 5. 65 साल के से ज्यादा एज वाले लोग ज्यादा है when compared to 5 साल से कम वाले एज वाले लोग. What does it tell you? That in last 5 years, less number of children have born when compared to people who have survived and are above 60. 60 जो above थे वो अब 65 से ऊपर होंगे वो वाले. तो for the first time this has happened. So this is what is the name of the report? World Population Prospect. But बहुत important नहीं है report क्योंकि 2019 का है. We are in 2021. Still you should know what is important is the data. It can help you in eliminating, if you have read it once or twice, if you have thought about it once or twice, it will help you in eliminating options. See, in exam questions are not going to come from notes. मतलब आएंगे notes से, but do not think कि exam में सारे question notes से आएंगे. हम जो classes में कर रहे हैं उससे हम अपना knowledge build कर रहे हैं ताकि questions कहीं से भी आए. There are 2 things that I promise you. One, मैं ये promise नहीं करता कि 100 में से 100 questions मैं दूंगा. नहीं. अच्छा, here also I'll repeat this thing. There is another Santosh Kumar, who is also a current affairs faculty. Okay, that guy is also very popular and he says stupid things. No, I'm sorry, stupid नहीं, उसकी बोलने का तरीका है, उसकी वजह से उसका बहुत मजाक उड़ाया जाता है, उसका बहुत सारे चैनल्स पे बहुत जगह मजाक उड़ाया जाता है. एंड कई बार जो नए स्टूडेंट्स हैं, दे अज्यूम कि दैट संतोष कुमार इज दिस संतोष कुमार. नो, दिस इज हैपनिंग. He uses the name Santosh Kumar. He doesn't add the surname there. So हाँ, सब या वो उस तरह के क्लेम्स मतलब सबने किया है, बट अभी रिसेंटली ही हैड सेड समथिंग लाइक इंटरव्यू का रिजल्ट इस दिन आ रहा है, ओ सॉरी मेंस का रिजल्ट इस दिन आ रहा है, एंड फिर उसका नहीं आया तो सब लोग मजाक उड़ा रहे थे. वन ऑफ माय टीचर्स सेड एंड केम टू मी एंड सेड, सर व्हाई डू यू मेक दिस काइंड ऑफ क्लेम्स? आई वाज लाइक, भैया मुझे क्या पता कब आ रहा है. आई डिडंट मेक दिस दैट क्लेम. इन अक्टूबर वन ऑफ माय पार्टनर्स केम कि सर बच्चे ये रिव्यू दे रहे हैं. मैंने कहा यार मेरा तो कोई टेस्ट सीरीज चलता भी नहीं, किसी टेस्ट सीरीज का खराब अच्छा जो भी रिव्यू चल रहा था. तो स्टूडेंट्स में ऑल्सो भी गेटिंग कंफ्यूज्ड. तो नाउ लाइक 800 के आसपास स्टूडेंट्स हैं, आप लोग ही बता दो कि हमारे संतोष सर डिफरेंट वाले संतोष सर है, इट्स नॉट दैट संतोष सर. हाँ, originals नहीं, that person is also original. I'm not saying, I do not know how that person teaches, and I'm not saying that he's a bad person or anything like that, but I'm not the one who says that मेरे notes से 80 questions आए थे. I said last year there were 36 questions from my notes. There, that I also mentioned in paragraph की इस पेज पे इस पैराग्राफ में वो क्वेश्चंस आए. उससे पहले there were 48 questions in 2019. I've never said that 80 questions came from current affairs from my notes. I would never do that. That teacher does that. फिर शायद आते होंगे उनके नोट से, मुझे नहीं जाना उस पे, बट जब किसी का मजाक उड़ रहा है, वो सारी चीजें हो रही है, तो देख लिया करो या शायद क्लैरिफाई कर दिया करो, भाई संतोष सर ऑफ लेवल अप आईएएस इज डिफरेंट. ओके, प्लीज डू दैट, बिकॉज जो नए वाले बच्चे आते हैं वो तो यार इसका तो बहुत मजाक उड़ रहा है, तो बेकार टीचर है कोई, ऐसा कुछ हो जाता है ना. तो ही मे बी अ वेरी गुड टीचर, द अदर पर्सन मे आल्सो बी अ वेरी गुड टीचर, but I am different from that person. I'm not saying I'm better, I'm different from that person. That should be known by everyone who's talking, who's saying good things about that person, who's saying bad things about the person. I'm Santosh Kumar, who has just been teaching from last 4 years. जो 1 साल यूनिक में पढ़ाया था, 2 साल शुभ्रा रंजन में पढ़ाया था, और अब लेवल अप में पढ़ा रहा है. I'm that Santosh Kumar. ओके, और मैं कोई बड़े बड़े क्लेम्स नहीं करता, रिजल्ट कब आएगा ये सारे क्लेम मेरे नहीं है. ठीक है, लेट्स कम बैक टू दिस वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन प्रोस्पेक्ट. अच्छा, वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन प्रोस्पेक्ट हमने कर लिया. तो आई वाज सेइंग दैट नॉट एवरीथिंग वुड कम फ्रॉम नोट्स, बट इफ यू डेवलप जनरल अंडरस्टैंडिंग, नो, दैट वुड बी क्रूशियल फॉर योर ओवरऑल प्रिपरेशन. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट another report, World Economic Situation and Prospect Report. Now, most important thing is you know that who publishes this report. वो रटना पड़ेगा. UNDSA publishes this report. Now, World Economic Situation and Prospect Report. What would it be saying? Economic situation. Latest report would be saying economic situation खराब है. COVID-19 has had negative impact. So it is saying that the global economy declined by 4.5%. 4.3%. And the sharpest decline was seen among developed countries. Sharpest decline was seen among developed countries. Lesser level of decline was seen among developing countries. और सबसे कम impact हुआ है COVID-19 का on least developed countries. Common sense से भी हम यही सोचते, इससे ज्यादा याद भी नहीं रखना, इससे ज्यादा कुछ समझना भी नहीं है. But World Economic Situation and Prospect Report is published by UNDSA, is something that we should know, and it is prepared by, देखो, published by UNDSA, but it's the joint product of United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDSA, UNCTAD, 5 UN regional commissions. There are contributions also from UN World Tourism Organization and ILO. Okay, ये बात clear है? Now, this report was published in Jan 2021, and that's why COVID का क्या impact है वो discuss कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, आपको दिख रहा है, देखो, I may have covered these reports last year also, but this year when I'm covering these reports have data of this year. Please understand this. and that is why some of you tend to take older notes और उससे ही पढ़ रहे होते हो. Avoid that. Take the latest notes and then study, because a lot of things may be there which may not be relevant today. A lot of things are here which are not there in the pre. So 60% of things would remain same, because 60 मैं fundamentals बहुत सारा पढ़ाता हूँ current affairs class में. So 60% of the things are going to remain same. Even if you do not want to watch classes, take the latest notes, not the notes of last year. Okay, now let's go to the next report. International Migration Stock. Another report by UNDSA. And now the report talks about कितने लोग migrated हैं, कितने नए लोग migrate हुए internationally, not from Bihar to Mumbai, not that migration. Internally तो हमें भी नहीं पता है. Internationally, what is the migration stock? The total number of international migrants in the world presently are 281 million in 2020. This number has kept on increasing. This number was 220 million in 2010. This number was 248 million in 2015. So roughly 28 crore people are 28 crore people are migrants in the world, international migrants. 28 crore, am I right? 10 million is 1 crore, no? Yes. 10 million is 1 crore, 100 million is 10 crore. Yes, 28 crore. 28 crore people are migrants, international migrants. Now, which is the region which will have highest number of migrants? Many of you may say American continent, but no, it is Europe. 86.7 million migrants are there in Europe. International migrants are there in Europe. Please understand, these are international migrants. So someone from Eastern Europe going to UK, going to Germany, those are also migrants. Second highest number of migrants are in Asia Pacific. 85.6. बांग्लादेश से जो इंडिया में भी आए हैं वो इंटरनेशनल माइग्रेंट्स. Then comes North America. But if you go country wise, then USA. आंख बंद करके यूएसए मार्क करो, सबसे ज्यादा लोग माइग्रेट यूएसए में हो रहे हैं. If you'll go country wise. Okay, so yeah, this was it. These were the three reports of UNDSA which we wanted to study. Now, this is also something that was published very recently in 2020. So again, even last year we may have done this report, but now this data is the data of the latest report. Okay, let us solve some questions. Okay, now आप लोग 4 लोग बैठे हैं यहाँ पे. उन 4 लोगों में से जिससे पूछा जाएगा सिर्फ वही आंसर देगा, इधर उधर से कोई आंसर नहीं देगा. ठीक है, we'll start with question number 3. Consider the following statements with reference to UNSC's non-permanent membership. UNSC का जो non-permanent membership है उसके बारे में. First, India has recently been appointed as a non-permanent member in UNSC. Correct? One is correct. This is the 8th time that India has become a member of UNSC. Correct? Okay. India is the country which has been appointed as a non-permanent member to UNSC highest number of times in the history of United Nations. इतना कॉन्फिडेंस कहां से लाते हो भाई? कैसे बोल दिया? हाँ, did I ever say that? I said कि India has been appointed 8 times, but did I ever say that India has been appointed highest number of times? लाते कहां से उतना कॉन्फिडेंस? अब now suppose you do not know it, I'll tell you the answer, but in exam you have to make guess. Is it correct or not? Always consider this. If India would have been appointed their highest number of times, it would have been there in newspaper, it would have been there in notes, someone would have mentioned it. किसी मोदी जी नहीं बोल दिया होता कि देखो सबसे ज्यादा बार यूएनएससी में इंडिया नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर बना है, अब हमें परमानेंट बना दो. राइट? Japan is the country which has highest, which was appointed highest number of time, 11 times. जापान है, फिर ब्राजील, कनाडा, इंडिया 4th 5th पे आता है. ओके, तो जस्ट डूइंग नोट्स आर आल्सो नॉट इनफ टू लर्न एवरीथिंग. क्वेश्चंस भी करो. So what should be the answer here? Answer is B, 1 and 2 only. Okay. Go to question number 4. पांडे जी तो हमारे स्टाफ मेंबर है. Security Council reform requires an amendment to the Charter of the United Nations. Which of the following conditions must be satisfied for this amendment? 1 और 2 में से क्या satisfy होना चाहिए for the amendment to Security Council Charter? General Assembly must approve the reform by a simple majority. Pakka? Okay. Both are correct. Actually, this is the exact condition by which UNSC, the Charter, Security Council Reform Charter of United Nations needs to get amended. First, General Assembly must approve the reform by a simple majority. Then 2/3 of the members of General Assembly should ratify it. So we need support from 2/3 of the members, because 2/3 of the members will need to ratify it, and all the P5 members. If even one P5 member says na, so it becomes na. So what should be the answer here? Answer should be both 1 and 2. Answer should be C. Okay, please remind me when I don't say the answer in the end, because some students, some online students have this complaint that you interact with 3-4 students who are sitting in the class, and then we don't get to know the answer in the end. So please let me know when I don't say the answer. Here answer would be C, both 1 and 2, right? Clear? Question number 5. Which of the following country is not a member of Coffee Club? D, Brazil. Brazil, G41, right? Question number, so answer of question number 5 is D, Brazil. Question number 6. Consider the following statements about International Court of Justice. This person. Question number 6. You would want to attempt it? International Court of Justice is located in New York. Wrong. It's located in Hague, Netherlands. Right? Maximum of 15 judges. Rukko bhai. Maximum of 15 judges. Ad hoc judge. If Pakistan doesn't have a judge there, another person can go there, no? Abhi bhul gaye aap to. In a contentious interstate issue, a maximum of 15 judges can sit as a judge in the case is wrong. 1 is also wrong, 2 is also wrong. What should be the answer? D, D for dog. D, B में confuse नहीं होना. D. Answer is neither 1 nor 2. Okay, come to question number 7. Full answer. ये मुझे नाम नहीं पता इनका. आपका नाम क्या है? पार्थ. पार्थ अर्जुन को बोलते हैं? Oh. Consider the following statements about the jurisdiction of International Court of Justice. One by one, statement 1, Parth. Or no one else would speak. Let Parth answer. ICJ can give binding ruling on disputes between provincial units of any member states. Disputes between provincial units. मतलब बिहार यूपी के बीच में dispute है. Can ICJ give binding ruling on that? No, the matter will not even go to ICJ. Right? Second, a non-state interest cannot be the subject of proceedings in the ICJ. See, it can be. It cannot take the, like, suppose some NGOs' rights have been violated by Pakistan. Can India take Pakistan to ICJ? Yes. So interest is a non-state interest. Kedarnath, nahi. Kulbhushan Jadhav, is he a non-state person? Yes. He is not serving, officially not serving government of India. He is not representing government of India. He is a non-state person. But was his interest taken to ICJ? Yes, it was taken, but in a different way. So a non-state interest cannot be the subject of proceeding. It can be subject of proceeding. Kulbhushan Jadhav can be subject of proceeding, but the dispute should be interstate. Fine. समझ में आ रही है बात? पक्का? तो 1 is wrong, 2 is wrong, 3. ICJ's advisory jurisdiction is confined to specialized UN bodies and agencies. True. Advisory jurisdiction it can only give to specialized bodies. हाँ, तो यहाँ पे हमने कहाँ और लिखा है? 4th, ICJ's advisory jurisdiction is only consultative in character. Binding or consultative? Consultative. It is only consultative in character. So what is the answer? 3 and 4. What should be the answer here? Answer should be C. C for cat. Right? सब पढ़ने के बाद भी सीखने को मिल रहा है क्वेश्चन आंसर करने पे, चीजें रिवाइज हो रही हैं. That is the purpose. I do not make test papers, but जो क्लास में क्वेश्चंस कराने होते हैं मैं खुद से बनाता हूं, because I want to ensure that after class the things that you are learning through those questions are also should also be effective. Okay, now let's go to question number 8. Consider the following statements, Amit. Consider the following statements with respect to World Investment Report. The report is published by World Economic Forum. Nahi. According to this report, the foreign direct investment in India and China have seen a rise in 2020 in spite of COVID-19 crisis. Yes, both are correct. See, for now it looks very easy for you people because you have only studied a few of the things. But by the time you reach, give me 3-4 days, there would be so many international bodies and so many investment type of reports, it would get confusing. And that's why it's important. The day you are getting your first booklet, whatever has been covered in the class, you should cover it right now effectively. Current affairs program at Level Up IAS would only be beneficial if you are sincere. If you want कि आखिरी के 1 महीने में सब पढ़ लेंगे तो जो मार्केट में आता है ना कंपाइलेशन रैंडम, वो पढ़ो. Not current affairs program here at Level Up IAS. Here you have to be sincere from the very first day, because we assure you that we will do everything which anyone else would be doing. But you also have to ensure that वो everything आपके लिए burden ना बन के advantage बने. And that will become advantage if you are consistently doing it. Okay, let's go to question. So what should be the answer here? B. Question number 9. Manshu. Which of the following reports are published by UNCTAD? हाँ, फर्स्ट वन ना. सेकंड कौन पब्लिश करता है? वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन प्रोस्पेक्ट. भगा दिया जाएगा, आपको बैठने नहीं दिया जाएगा. इंटरनेशनल माइग्रेंट स्टॉक. अभी यूएनसीटीएडी और यूएनडीएसआई पढ़ा है यार, इसमें भी कंफ्यूज हो गए. यूएनडीएसआई है. वर्ल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड सोशल आउटलुक, ILO. We'll come to ILO. ILO we haven't covered yet. World Employment and Social Outlook report is published by none of the above. ILO है नहीं ना ऑप्शन में. World Employment and Social Outlook report is by ILO, but I haven't given ILO. अच्छा दिया है क्या? हाँ. See. कितने खुश हो, गलती हो गई सर से. ठीक है, तो let's do ILO और let's end this class tomorrow. Let's meet at 2 p.m. We'll do this by tomorrow 2 p.m. I'll also in the group I'll post another booklet of international bodies, and we'll also start doing that tomorrow. Okay, चलिए.